Greetings and welcome to How to Buy a Nikon Camera. I'm going to walk you through the basic decision-making process of choosing a Nikon camera and lens. You can check out the other videos for Canon and Fuji. The most important thing before we get started here, this is critical. I want you to take your credit card and go and hide it somewhere. Put it somewhere safe where you cannot get it. I don't actually want you to buy a camera right now. I just want to walk you through the basic decision making process. I want to show you the different options and show you how to decide on what camera and what lenses to buy. Um, so you'll remember in the introduction, I said that any camera brand will do. I'm walking you through Nikon here because some people will be convinced that they want a Nikon. If you're interested in learning photography, it does not matter what brand of camera you buy. Every camera maker out there today is making amazing cameras. So we're going with Nikon for those of you who are really interested in Nikon. You might want to consider choosing a camera brand that your friends or family already own, because then you can share lenses and other gear with each other, because you can't really just buy a Nikon camera and then go and buy Canon lenses. Um, there are technically ways that you can do that, but you really don't want to get into that. You need a Nikon camera with Nikon lenses or Fuji cameras with Fuji lenses. So if you have friends who have Nikon cameras, you may want to consider buying a Nikon so that you can borrow their lenses and stuff, but don't be a pesky friend. So we have got a whole bunch of options here when it comes to Nikon, and let's just start at the very basic. You need a camera body and you need a camera lens. If you just buy a camera body, you will not be able to take a picture. So you need at least one lens to go on the body. What we see here before us is the Nikon D3300. Right now, this is Nikon's entry-level camera. This is like the cheapest, most basic camera that you can buy from them if you're buying the DSLR kind of camera. And no doubt within a couple of months they'll have something like the D3400, but at this point this is their most basic camera. And it's a great camera. People who have used this camera and reviewed it will tell you what a great camera this is. So just because it's the most basic doesn't mean that it's crappy. It's a really good camera. And I recommend starting at the bottom if you're going to jump into photography, because you can always buy a camera body, and a couple of lenses, and then in a couple of years when you've gotten really good, you can upgrade that camera body and still keep all your lenses. So upgrade the camera body, and if you buy the right lenses, you just keep using them forever. So here we go. It's this is their entry level camera body. You can see the regular price is approximately $500 plus tax for just the body. Now you have to buy lenses. So here are some basic lens options. You can buy this 18 to 55 millimeter lens to put on that camera. And as you can see, it's $250. So now you're up to $750 for a camera and one lens. And this lens, 18 millimeters, is really wide. This is a zoom lens, so you can zoom from 18 millimeters, which will get you a nice wide picture. You can zoom into 55 millimeters, which is not a whole lot of zoom. You cannot zoom in to something really far away at 55 millimeters. 18 millimeters is great for a group picture, your family or something like that, or it's good for a nice landscape photo. 55 millimeters is good for photographing a couple of people together, or maybe a tree in the landscape rather than the whole wide landscape. Um, you'll notice all of these numbers and letters and everything. Um, this is an autofocus camera or sorry, an autofocus lens um, made for particular Nikon camera bodies. It's got the 18 to 55 millimeter range, which I just explained, and it's got vibration reduction. That is what the VR stands for, which means that when you take a picture and your hand is, shaking, you don't even notice. But when you're holding that camera, it is not being held still. That's why they invented tripods, because you can't hold a camera perfectly still. But the vibration reduction allows the lens to compensate for the shaking that your hand's doing, even though you don't notice you're shaking. And it means you can use a slower and slower shutter speed and have less shake in your picture. You can check out another video where I talk about lenses and shutter speed in more depth. This is just about buying a camera. You'll notice the f3.5 to 5.6. This refers to the aperture, which is how big of a hole there is in that lens for the light to travel through. The bigger the hole, the the more light that comes in. And 3.5, it's okay. It's kind of a standard starting point. And as you zoom that in, that hole starts to close and goes all the way to 5.6, which means this lens is not the most wonderful lens to be using indoors. You should keep that in mind. This is not the best lens for indoor use. You can get away with it in a really bright house or using your flash, but this is just not the most wonderful lens for indoor low light photos. Okay, next lens. This lens picks up where the other one left off. The other one goes from a nice wide 18 millimeters, zooming into 55 millimeters, which is good for a portrait or something like that. This lens zooms from 55 millimeters all the way into 200. And 200 means you can take pictures of things that are pretty far away. Not super far away, but if you see a cool tree out in a field and it's on private property and you can't get out there, you could probably zoom in and get a nice picture of that tree, or whatever, that kind of thing. So 55 millimeters again, that's going to be nice to take a portrait or a photographing a couple of your friends, but it's not going to get you a very wide looking photo. That's why they made the 18 to 55 millimeter lens. And you can see these lenses work perfect together. If you buy these two lenses, you're covering everything from a nice wide photo to a more telephoto photo, uh, where you're zoomed in. Again, this has vibration reduction, which is good because when you're zooming into something far away, the camera shake is exaggerated even more. The more you zoom, the worse that shake gets. Just think about if you've ever looked through a telescope up into the night sky. If you bump that telescope just a little bit, whatever you were looking at is going to be completely lost. You move it just a millimeter and you're looking at a whole new area of the sky. Well, that's kind of how this telephoto lens works. You shake it the tiniest bit and you're really going to see it in your pictures. So vibration reduction is important. You'll notice that this lens is regularly about $350. So if you were to buy the $500 camera body, this lens for $350, that's $850, and then the other lens, the 18 to 55, I think now you're up to about $1,100. So a camera with two lenses, $1,100. One more lens to look at here. This is pretty much the same lens as we just saw, except it allows you to zoom all the way to 300. So from 55 to 300 millimeters. 300 millimeters, the difference between 200 and 300 millimeters is not a massive difference. But if you know that you want to be taking pictures of like wildlife and that kind of thing, the more you can zoom that camera in or the lens in, the better. So if you know for sure that you want to take pictures of things that are far away, you're you're going to want to seriously consider this lens instead of the 55 to 200. And notice that the price goes up by about $80 or something like that. So, but it's probably worth it. Now we get into the package deals. So, and this is typically the way you're going to buy a camera is a package. You're going to look for the camera with the lens combination that you need. So here is the Nikon D3300 body with the 18 to 55 millimeter lens, and it's $579, which means just the body is well, it's on sale right now. That's throwing things off a bit. $630 would be the regular price. Let's just go with regular prices. So, um, so the lens becomes significantly cheaper when you buy it as a package. Instead of 250, it's like an upgrade price of 130. So it's kind of like half price, getting the lens half price, something like that. Here is a package with the D3300 body, the 18 to 55 millimeter lens. Remember, that's a nice wide lens with a bit of zoom to it. And then the 55 to 300 lens. So if you know you want to be getting pictures of stuff that's far away, the 55 to 300 lens is a good choice. And look at the package deal. It's only about um, 1,000, sorry, $1,030 regular price, but as you can see, sale prices are good. Um, so you're going to save yourself a chunk of money there by buying a bundle. All right, and there's the bundle with the 55 to 200 if you know that you want to save yourself a bit of money. But I think if you want that good zoom lens, the telephoto lens, why not get the 300? Why not zoom as far as you can? So here is another lens to consider. This is a 50 millimeter lens. You cannot zoom this lens. This lens is wonderful for portraits of one or two people. This lens is wonderful for newborn photos or infants, even little kids. And the reason why this lens is so great is because you'll notice the f1.8. That means it has a much wider aperture, a much larger hole in the lens for the light to travel through. And that means if you're going to be taking a lot of indoor photos, or a lot of photos of your newborn baby, or a lot of photos of your little kids, or a lot of portraits, you buy this lens and it will help you to get more light into the camera in those low light situations. This is not a very wide angle lens, 50 millimeters. Think portraits, head and shoulders, think newborns, stuff like that. I mean, the more you can back up, the more you can, the further away you can get from your subject, the more of them you can get into the picture. But this is not a zoom lens, which means if you want, you're going to have to walk closer to them or walk further away. If you don't want to have to move, if you don't want to have to walk forward or backwards, don't buy this lens. Um, but this lens is wonderful for portraits and things like that. So if you're thinking of buying a camera because you're about to have a baby, you want to seriously consider this lens. And it's only around $250. I guess I have to finish this quickly before my battery dies. It's only about $250. Um, so I'm telling you, you must buy this lens if newborns and portraits are the things that you're interested in. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap this up right now. You can feel free to leave questions in the comment section below. Please ask questions because then I can update this video, put together a more polished video based on the questions you have. Surely you have unanswered questions right now So please ask away and I will get back to you. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope this was helpful.